Hello, my name is Greg Ferris with the Blue Sea and Science Center, and I have the pleasure of spending some time with Mr. Jay Maloney, owner of Maloney Marine Rigging Incorporated, and we're going to talk a little bit about the rigging industry. Maloney opened the MMR in 1990, and for 25 years has been fabricating spars and rigging for boats all over the East Coast. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
All right, so my first question for you is, what drew you to the sea?
To the sea?
To the sea.
Just out of college, I worked for a petroleum distributor for a couple of years and just absolutely did not enjoy it. So I left there and went to Newport to start delivering boats up and down the East Coast. And did that for a few years. When I got sick of all the movement, I kind of gravitated toward the rigging side of it.
Did you identify that there was a need here in Maine for somebody to work in that?
Yeah, very much. A lot of places did it as a part of their business, boat yards, some yacht brokers, sail-offs, but there wasn't any place that did just rigging. In particular, there was nobody in the state that worked on solid stainless steel rod rigging. So that was sort of a niche that I wanted to fill.
When did that technology start to be used on in yacht rigging?
Well, it goes back to the early 70s, but it was just starting to be popular in the late 70s, early 80s. More production boats were using it instead of just like the stock boats.
What are all of the different operations that fall under the category of marine rigging?
Okay. So I like to say that we do anything that is involved with keeping the sails on the boat. So we don't do sail work. We'll do masts. We'll do the standing rigging to hold the mast up. We'll do the control lines, sheets and halyards, bring the sails in and out, up and down. And then we do an array of deck hardware like winches, and jammers, and hydraulic parts that influence the shape of the mast.
Mm-hmm. And what brought you to Southport Island specifically?
Booth Bay Region Boat Yard had just gotten off the ground then. They were a couple years old and they were eager to have a rig shop here on site. So I had looked from Cape Elizabeth further north to Camden, but they were very generous and very accommodating.
Okay, so you have your own shop here, but what is the farthest that you've traveled for work?
The majority of our work is the Maine coast. We go Portsmouth, New Hampshire, the Mount Desert. We have done work in Newport, Rhode Island. I don't think we've ever really gone south to do it. That's certainly our focus.
Okay. What would you say was one of your most challenging projects?
Well, there's been a few. One great one was when Hodgson Yachts built their first big sloop, Antonisa, 124-foot sloop. They were very good in using local companies, and they used us to provide Navtec brand hydraulics. We did all the running rigging for the boat, and we were the provider by way of Navtec for the solid rod rigging. So that was by far the biggest project I ever worked on. And I remember when Tim Hodgson approached me, I said, I've never worked on a that size, Tim. Tim said, well, neither have I. So it was good. It was a great learning experience and opened a lot of doors for me.
You had mentioned the use of hydraulics on boats. I've seen them used in boom bangs on large boats, but are there other uses for hydraulics?
Boom bangs are a big one. Backstay adjusters are another one. And on some race boats, they will use hydraulic mast jacks to actually get the rig tension that they want. Mm-hmm. Some boats will have an outhaul cylinder inside the boom, so they get the outhaul tension.
So this may be the same project or maybe a different, but what is one of your favorite or most gratifying projects?
We did a neat restoration of the rig on, they're called an IDEM class boat in the Adirondacks. And the called the New Mountain Museum. I think they've changed their name now. Had an item that Tennant's Harbor Boatyard had restored. And then we went to the museum to actually rig the boat inside and have it, in place for the public. And that was pretty neat to go back to that standard of rigging.
What would be one of the strangest projects that you've ever encountered with an asked to?
We've done some architectural applications. We do stainless steel cable railing for like porches and decks, so you don't inhibit the view. We were asked by a metal fabricator to do an interior spiral stairwell, but they didn't want stainless steel cable, they wanted rope. And they didn't want any common pattern, they wanted it to be a little bit random. And we sent them samples of like purely random, and then some that were just where they crossed in different places. And then we had to do that on site.
So what was the results? Purely random, or did it end up having some?
No, there was a pattern to it, but it certainly looked unusual.
How has technology changed the industry during the 25 plus years that you've been?
Yeah, actually now it's been 30 years.
30? Congratulations.
Probably the most significant advances have been with rope and cordage technology. When I started in the mid-'80s, Kevlar was the new fabric they were using in rope. I remember going to Yale Cordage because they were doing America's Cup boats. Kevlar, but now Kevlar is way in the past. And the new textiles that they're coming up with are close to zero stretch, hugely strong. You can go to very small diameters. And the nice thing, Mike is very good at this, is they all take different types of splices.
No matter how high-tech things get, the ancient art of splicing is still
very much. And it's been sort of a going back to, those were a long time ago. I'm trying to use less heavy hardware and more flashings and soft attachments.
I have noticed in the past few years that small home-built boats and more traditionally written vessels are kind of coming back into vogue. Is that what we've seen kind of a resurgence in?
I don't know. It seems like there's always that pocket of them around. Very ardent people who are interested in it. But I don't know if I've really seen a resurgence. But it's funny because we try to do it all, right? Because we're small and it's a limited market. But we try to do the modern stuff. We try to do the traditional stuff. Big, small.
Pauline would like to know, what is the greatest threat to the industry?
Well, I feel threatened. I mean, it's certainly a different market now in that we don't stock 25 different kinds of parking blocks because anybody can go online and get them, have them the next day at half the price of what I can make. So I think the whole online aspect of availability of product is a challenge, but I don't think it's ever going to threaten the bottom line of the service. So that's the kind of service that I try to promote. If they want to just go buy stuff online.
One last question, and that's from one of our instructors, Anna Soror. She would like to know, what is the most complicated rigging situation you've ever encountered?
That could go either way because of my lack of familiarity with traditional vessels. When you get into gaff rig, topsail stuff, you might know more about it. And then it's funny because the trend in modern boats wants to be simpler. But if you get into like hydraulic systems where the hydraulics run winches and backstay cylinders, then that's a whole different level of complication. To that point, when they brought one of Hodgson Yacht's big boats back, was originally called Scheherazade, and that was called SMR. They called us to take the mizzenmast had broken. They called us to take the mizzenmast broken in half. How hard can this be? Well, to release the halyards that were still busted, but on big takeout punches below that. You had to use a computer and a touchscreen to activate the winches.
Yeah.
So the engineer of the boat had to be there for any of us to happen. If it takes that much, just do a simple thing and you're going in the right direction.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
So I started just in this bay of this building, this center bay. And then there was Molly Hutchins, who makes clothing. She was in that. And Steve Ecker of Ocean Electronics was in that. Molly left, so we moved into there. And then Steve left, so we opened these walls up so we had 70 feet of space to work with. Because a lot of the stuff that we have to do, we need. So this became a little hydraulic center. Where all the cylinders get rebuilt or repaired, and Mike's got the full array of tools and the drawers and the various seal kits for different products. So that's all right here in that space. In the south end, that's the hydraulic press that we use to do the solid stainless rod rigging. We used a little portable press on a two-wheel truck for most of our history, but we got that press which allowed us to do bigger diameter rod, and it's much easier to manual little press. And then that corner we just use sort of for any fabrication work, stainless steel work or aluminum work. So that's our little wire swaging machine. So the standing rigging, that's wire, not solid rod. That's and Mike uses this bench to lay out the cable assemblies before he slaves them. So we keep the wire on spools under the bench. And then we have some. These are, again, drawers of fittings that are used, as well as the end fittings on the pegboard. And then where Mike is, that's the whole splicing world down there. Keep some rope in stock, but like I was saying about being able to order stuff online now, I used to stock probably twice as much rope as that, but now it's so easy to get it the next day. Mike is making new jib sheets for the New York 40 Mara Lee. They're doing the Egamaga Reach. As I used to have probably twice as much hardware as that. Now I don't even bother because I can get it quickly, and a lot of people just, if they're going to do it themselves.